Hello, my name is Nadia Jordana, and welcome to WomanVision TV. My guest today is Kathy Holmes. She is one of 3 women featured in my recent book, Reinventing New Chapters in Your Life at Any Age. A few years ago, Kathy was told that she would never walk again. These are words that few of us will ever have to hear. She's with us today to talk about how she got through it, and yes, walk again, in addition to creating an entirely new life for herself as an author. Welcome to the studio today, Kathy.
Thank you.
Kathy, step 1 revolves around reshaping a healthier body and attitude, and it seems to me that through all the things that you went to, it was your emotional strengths that you drew on. Is that true?
Yes, it is. When I first began going out in public in my power chair, I was very self-conscious. Did I look like a disabled person? What kind of image did I have of disabled people? I tossed it around in my mind for quite a while. I could be embarrassed about being in a wheelchair and never go out anywhere, or I could accept the chair as part of my new look. After all, I was still the same person I'd been before I became paralyzed. I was not going to let the wheelchair determine who I was or prevent me from being as active as I could be. Now that I'm no longer in a wheelchair, I struggle with the same overweight body image that I had before I became paralyzed. While I was in a wheelchair, I had an excuse. I had limited mobility. I no longer can use that excuse. I battled with eating properly and getting as much exercise as I can. The combination of getting older and not having the same strength and flexibility that I had before I became paralyzed has made the challenge even greater. I continue to go to Courage Center for an hour and a half of pool therapy twice a week. I lost my ability to walk. Now that I have gained it back, I'm not going to lose it. I work so hard to achieve it.
Step 2 revolves around relationships and spirituality. During your ordeal, your husband was also dealing with a devastating illness. Tell us how you coped.
Well, I always felt my husband Charlie was my safety net. If I went out on a limb about a project, he was there to put me back together again if I slipped. When I was in the hospital and then in the transitional care facility, I was physically alone. During the 5 months I was away, he only was able to visit me once. He was dealing with a below-the-knee amputation due to a diabetic infection at the same time. We spoke to each other daily, often comparing who had the best lunch. He maintained his calm self on the phone, and I knew he was still there for me. When he realizes that I needed someone to look after my care, when I went to the transitional care facility, he hired a care manager to visit me periodically and make sure that I was getting proper care. My daughter and my son were also available. My daughter was with me during most of my most difficult period. However, my daughter was a flight attendant, and I never knew when she was flying or when she was even in the country. My son had moved to Duluth and attended college. They too were there to help me make decisions, but not always physically available. In April 2009, I was released from the transitional care facility. I could not stand for more than a minute and a half or get out of bed without a lift. My power chair was my only form of mobility. When the weather began to get nicer, it wasn't enough to open the windows. I wanted to go outside. The first time I made my way through the wooded path across the street from our home to the shopping area, I was ecstatic. I felt I had escaped imprisonment. Shortly after that, I wheeled myself the 2 blocks to the church down the street. Often when Charlie and I drove by the church, we would say, "We need to try going there some Sunday," but we never did. During the last month before I came home, Charlie was also at the transitional care facility at the same time that I was, and the pastor from that church came to visit us. We were both very impressed. At first, I was afraid to drive my power chair up to the altar, thinking that I'd run over somebody or do something disastrous, knock something over. I practiced when the sanctuary was empty. Every Sunday, I was drawn to the church. Charlie, who was a little more of a religious skeptic than me, Charlie was not able to walk up to the church, and I wasn't able to push him in the wheelchair. So we had to call the mobility bus, drive us 2 blocks to the church and back. The medical quagmire that Charlie and I experienced in 2008 was the beginning of a journey that strengthened our faith. It was a blessing in disguise.
Step 3 teaches redirecting thought patterns toward the possibilities in life rather than focusing on distress. How did you suppress negative thoughts and feelings of hopelessness?
I've always been a person that looks ahead rather than behind. It would have been easy to feel sorry for myself, but that would get me nowhere. I still had my upper body strength, I had my eyes, my ears, my brain. I was not a hopeless situation. Climbing out of negative thoughts and feelings doesn't come easy for everyone. Some must work harder than others. But focusing on the positive and what you can do, as opposed to your limitations, leads to a healthier person. As I say in my book, courage, determination, and faith, there is hope.
Number 4 is my personal favorite, rediscovering the magic in your life. Once you were making progress, how did you bring joy back into your life?
I focused on the magic that surrounded me. Natural wonders I never noticed before became new and an exuberating experience. During my paralysis, my daughter became engaged. She was 37, and I was not sure she would ever marry. I was ecstatic. Charlie and I, both in wheelchairs, took the mobility bus to the country club where her wedding was held. I even had a friend sit on my lap, and we danced at her wedding. The only thing that was even more thrilling was finding out that I was going to be a first-time grandmother. My granddaughter Olivia was what motivated me to strive for mobility. It was fine to swaddle her and ride her around in my power chair when she was little, but as she grew, I needed to be able to stand to change her diaper. Then I needed to bend down to pick her up from the floor. Olivia and I learned to walk together at the same time. I now have 2 granddaughters, and Isabella doesn't know that grandmother. She wonders what that power chair is sitting empty in the corner. There's a lot of joy in life if we just look for it.
Number 5, removing lingering regrets. Were there things you needed to put into perspective in order to move forward?
If I say I wish I'd never been paralyzed, I would have missed many lessons in life that I learned. I would never have exercised patience. I would never have been as compassionate toward people with disabilities. I would never have had my faith strengthened. As I came out of paralysis, the sun began to shine brighter and brighter each day. How can I have any regrets?
Number 6, rewriting your new life chapter. And for you, that literally was writing a book. Tell us about that.
Well, I've always enjoyed writing, both for business and pleasure. My friends kept telling me that I was an inspiration to others. That's when I decided to share my story with others and give hope to those facing life challenges. Writing and publishing a book is a graduate course in itself, as you well know. I learned a great deal. What I didn't imagine is that I would retrieve my Toastmaster skills and end up speaking at churches, community centers, libraries, and support groups. My disability opened up a whole new world for me, and I love it.
Number 7 is all about living your new life chapter, and you're certainly doing that. Now that you're published, how many changes have happened in your life being an author, and what are some of the things that you've learned?
The best part of sharing my story with others is the feedback I receive from those who've experienced or are experiencing challenges in their life. There are some incredible success stories out there. Courage doesn't always make the front page of the newspaper. It's with us every day if we only listen.
Kathy, thank you for being here today. Kathy's website is istandwithcourage.com. Her book is titled I Stand with Courage. Look for her online and on Facebook. I'm Nadia Jordana, and I will leave you today with the question, what chapters are yet to be written in your life?